You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and
George.
All right, welcome back. It is the Schwab's Meet Unofficial 40 podcast. The gang is here. Josh McCuistion at home in Houston getting ready for his kids to just rip apart a bunch of Christmas presents in a couple of days. Just wild animals, I'm sure the girls have become with the Christmas tree. Eddie Radosevich is here as well. But the man of the hour, Mr. George Stoya, he's off the market, ladies. Congratulations to the newly engaged George Stoya. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, guys. I gave you guys a heads up. What was that, like a week ahead of time? Because I was worried about John Mateer committing on the day that I was doing that.
You saved a man's life, John Mateer.
Yeah, it worked out well. I was kind of freaking out on that Wednesday. I was like, man, if this guy drags this shit out, I'm going to be so mad. But, yeah, it was great, and she was totally surprised, had no idea it was coming. And it was awesome. Had some family and friends there. And
how did you deal when you got there and all the cars were there?
So, well, I had them parked down the street.
Let's explain how you did this first. Because jumping ahead to that, nobody's going to understand.
Yeah.
But you guys start out going to dinner, just a regular dinner that night.
Yeah, I took her to Jimmy B's fine establishment in Oklahoma City, and I wasn't nervous most of the week. And then about a couple hours before dinner, I was like, "Holy shit, this is a big deal." And not that I didn't think it was a big deal before, but I wasn't.
Well, you were pretty busy during the week.
I was busy with Portal stuff and all that, but took her to Jimmy B's. I did not eat much. I was very nervous. I was drinking some wine, and that helped a little bit. But while I was gone, my friends and family set up in her backyard on her back patio some candles and stuff, and left the ring there. I had given the ring to my best friend, and he left it there and set it all up, and then
I believe
came
he went
back
and bought like 40 candles or something like that.
Yeah, bought a ton of candles for it, and then they had it all set up, and then when we came back, everybody was waiting inside in the house, and everybody parked down the street, so she didn't see it coming.
Oh, okay.
And when we pulled up, you can see her fence, and so she could see the lights, and she was like, "What are all those lights back there?" And I just kind of smiled. She's like, "What's going on?" And then we got out of the car, and she's like, "Is this really happening?" And then we both started crying, and I said what I said and did the damn thing. So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah,
it's good to have family there with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was awesome. Big Sam was there. He was emotional. He was having a good time. Had some wine. He was given. It was so funny. So, a lot of her friends were there. Who most of them are married or have very serious significant others. And I look over at an hour into the party. My dad is just talking these guys' ears off. These husbands,
just holding court.
Yeah, husbands of some of the girls there. And I asked those guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's giving us a referral to some bank or something." I don't know. It was like he was giving them financial advice and stuff, and I was just like,
"Get some wine in Sam Stoya, and you get financial advice."
Just holding court over there, but it was
very
fun.
nice, very nice. Congratulations! And
the Scoop crew will be invited to the wedding whenever that's official, and all the listeners out there, you guys can come too. Just show up. I'm sure
that's a lie. That's a lie. You don't want that.
I'm sure Aaron would love that.
Yeah, I'm sure she would.
Here's the thing:
She is screaming at her radio right now.
We're going to count up the person who has submitted the most mailbag questions to you over the last year.
Oh God!
And they get to be in your wedding party.
No thanks. No thanks.
They're an usher.
No, they'll be a groomsman.
Oh no. Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, that's not happening. But the Scoop crew will be there. I told Aaron that Eddie was going to videotape for free.
Well, That you don't want that either.
No, you want to have actual memories of your
I would
wedding.
make sure that you get that done professionally. My services.
Why
won't
is
be
the
needed.
videographer showing the urinal in the bathroom? Something's terribly gone wrong here.
I think it'd be more so. I just don't think I'll be carrying a camera that day. Let's just put it that way.
Eddie would be going around from table to table. Not that it would really be the real stuff, but making it look like he was just doing lines of cocaine everywhere.
Well, I don't know about that either.
It would be sugar.
No, it won't. It'd be real. It'd be real cocaine. We're back in on fentanyl.
Okay, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
We are
Christmas,
doing
happy
this
holidays.
pod on a Monday.
It's a weird week.
Yeah,
It's a really weird week.
It's a very odd week. We have you have
Christmas in the middle.
Eve and then
It
Christmas
sucks. I hate Christmas in the middle of the week like this. Although it works out, but yeah, it just I don't like it on Wednesday. I like my Christmas like on the weekend or
Like a Friday or
Yeah.
a Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday would be perfect.
Thursday
Well,
would
we'll be at
perfect.
Media Day on Thursday.
There is a
know.
game at the end of the week this week.
Yeah, Friday. So the schedule as it is, we're doing all the shows today. Then we'll all go see family the next couple of days. We'll all reconvene Thursday morning for Media Day, 10 a.m. I believe, at the in Dallas and
Fort Worth.
Well, no, Dallas, because it's at the Omni.
It's at the
It's the Omni in Fort Worth.
There's an Omni in Fort Worth.
That's what I said. I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess so. Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, we'll do Media Day.
I don't know. We probably need to look that up. Now I'm kind of questioning myself. I'm pretty sure that Bob said he's staying at the Omni in Fort Worth, though. So it must be at Fort Worth, in Fort Worth.
Dang, Bob staying at the Omni.
He's a big
I have no
baller
idea.
in it. Yeah, that's impressive.
It says there is a Fort Worth Omni.
Okay. There you go.
I just pulled it up. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to it.
So
Can't wait. This is the most excited I've ever been for a bowl game. That's a joke.
Jesus, Eddie, you are so negative.
Look, it's not
You're the
saying
one that's been
it's-
saying the game doesn't matter for a month.
I know, but come on, man. Like, just be.
It's a low point. It's a low point
It
for
is.
OU
Look,
football.
we're
It
lucky
is.
it's not the Alamo Bowl, all right? And it's not,
I'd rather go to
You
the
don't have to
Alamo
s-
Bowl.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I
you were
would.
so miserable.
It
last
works out
year.
though. It works out though because I got the wedding in Dallas on Saturday. It actually did work out perfectly.
Yes, it did. That's what I was about to say. It's like we're shitting on it, and I agree. The game is meaningless, but it is a lot better situation than a year ago where we were driving on Christmas Eve, watched 15 minutes of practice on Christmas. I thought Eddie was going to murder Carrie in the car. And at the pancake place. Went to some pancake place. That was phenomenal. Eddie's like, this is terrible pancakes.
I didn't say it was terrible.
Yes, you
I
did.
said it's very average. Very average.
It was not.
Just
It
like
was
everything
really
else.
good.
Oh, we went
in
to
San Antonio.
we went to
Is it the German place, right?
Yeah, the Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives place. Now
Yeah.
they have
When
a
I tell you,
20
we-
location.
Guy
Josh,
Fiore should have set fire to that place a long
we
time
pulled
ago.
up to this place, and the wait was like, I want to say like 15 minutes. I thought Eddie was going to murder somebody in that parking lot. He was so angry.
It was terrible. It just
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
The Pancake House, I think
the
it's
Pancake House.
It was good.
But it's
Yeah.
not spelled house.
We go
right?
there
It's like
whenever we take the girls
German
to SeaWorld. We go there. And I've been there with Carrie at least a couple of times.
Yeah, I think we went to the one out kind of by, I don't know if the original one, when there was only one. I think we went to like we went to practice at like Cibolo Steel or something like that.
Yeah.
because that's where they
I
were doing
can't
the
remember.
Army stuff at,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Right. So anyway, yeah, I mean, Eddie's been a treat so far this week. I mean, compared to last year.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's much better.
Great.
I mean, look, we've all had the ups and downs. The portal has driven us insane. There have been times when we thought that John Mateer was not going to come here, and then we were going to deal with the fallout of that. But he is here. Eddie, you even talked to him this morning on the radio.
Yeah, he did the the media car wash this morning. I know that he was on with us, me and Ryan on the franchise. He was on with Plank, I want to say, on the ref this morning, and he was great. I think he's going to be fun to cover. He definitely gets it, just in terms of asking questions in the media and kind of his role and everything. But it was kind of fun. He talked about the Baker Mayfield, conversation that he had, and he said that Baker actually called him and he missed the phone call because he didn't know who it was, and Baker left a voicemail and obviously listened to the voicemail and was extremely excited and called him back immediately. But it was cool. It's going to be fun. Certainly would like to see some more activity in the portal market, but we shall see. George, you kind of talked about it last week, just in terms of Oklahoma wanting to get done by Monday. There's going to be a couple other, I think, guys,
stragglers,
names left out there that they certainly will continue to recruit from the portal, that enter the portal as of today and moving forward. I think it's going to be interesting to see what teams from some of these playoff teams that end up having their season come to an end, are they going to continue getting guys in the portal? It's going to be kind of interesting to watch.
Well, and there is a name that's committed today. We'll get to that, but first, Eddie, you are also sitting in a chair that very distinguished guest was sitting in just a few days ago. When Ben Arbuckle came by.
That was cool. That was a lot of fun to have him come by the office and sit down
and just
with
to kind of
Chelsea
hang out
Jr.
with him,
and
not interviewing him.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean,
He was here for like an hour. Hung out with us.
I told you guys after he left, that was the most real conversation I've had with a coach. I feel like you can definitely tell that he's 29 years old, but it's gonna be kind of fun to see him take over this offense. And I think with all the gravity that comes with the expectations and a better offense, it's gonna certainly be high-pressured situations here moving forward over the next 7-8 months as they get ready.
Well, you think about it. I mean, just his travels here, Houston Baptist and Western Kentucky, and then Washington State's a big-time program, but still, it's not like in Oklahoma. It really was like we got a young coach who has not been hurt yet. He's still full of wonderment.
Yeah.
And, just innocence, if you will.
His life will be held by week 2 of the season next year. People will hate him.
They will say that you can tell what he's going to call next. And,
Yeah.
he's predictable and all that stuff.
But I will say, from sitting down and talking to him in the interview, as well as just outside of the interview, I can see why OU was very attracted to him in terms of the interview process and the search and everything. He's
very much what you want. I
mean,
he
and the way
has
he talks,
a vision and a plan.
The way he talks about his offensive scheme and what he wants to do, I thought was pretty eye-opening, because everybody, I feel like, has kind of put him in this air raid box, and that's just not. I mean, he kind of pushed back when I think it was me that asked that, or maybe it was Joe that asked him kind of about his scheme and philosophy and coming from an air raid tree, and he kind of pushed back and was like, if I'm an air raid guy, I got my card pulled this year because they ran the ball a heck of a lot more. So
same thing that Bob Stoops told me, when Lincoln came here, is that Mike Leach was not real happy with a lot of the run stuff that they were doing. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, when it comes to the air raid, because we've all seen it be too pass happy. But one thing that really stood out is talking about John Mateer, talking about Michael Hawkins, and just overall looking at the talent, Deion Burks he talked about. He clearly is developing a vision for this offense and what it's going to look like and who he's going to have by being out at these bowl practices. And as Eddie can tell you, he is the expert on vision here at Sooner Scoop.
Absolutely, and all you got to do this holiday season is hit up my friends at Enjoy Vision. That is the letter NJOY Vision.com to save $600 off on LASIK. The consultation obviously is going to be free, and it's a very easy process. Consider this a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa kind of gift to you. From me to you, happy Merry Savings from me and the staff over at Enjoy Vision. That is Enjoy Vision, NJOY Vision.com. $600 off LASIK, and you can schedule your free consultation today.
Speaking of vision, Josh, your vision for Christmas with the girls, where exactly are the girls these days? Are they just little present tyrants now, or do they just are they kind of chill like you are about things?
They are definitely in their, and they are both Taylor Swift fans. So era is everything. We are constantly in an era of something, and they are in their present driven era tour at the moment. So they are very much about what they're getting, talking to people about Christmas. Like, they were running some errands with me this morning, and they're like, "Can we get this?" And I'm like, "Girls, it is 2 days of Christmas. You're not getting anything like ever again. Like this may be the end of it." But I will say they're both really good. They like to give gifts, especially to each other. Like we take them out every year and go get they get to pick out whatever their sister would like, and they kind of talk about that stuff. And they get pretty jacked up about that, like getting to see their sister open their presents, and they really like that. So
that's good.
They're not brat children, but they, like I'm sitting here, from where I'm sitting, I can see our Christmas tree, and it's just an insane array. Every year, Tiffany and I are like, "Oh, we're going to be a little more low key this year," and then every year it's like 3 more presents that we never accounted for.
Do you put all the presents out already before Christmas?
Oh yeah, we've had most of our stuff wrapped for a week or so now. I wrapped Tiffany's stuff that I had for like 2 days ago, and that's pretty late for me. But yeah, we try to get it done early just because we've got so much travel. Like we were up in Oklahoma a week ago, and we've got all this other stuff and going to see. So it's just like the last week is crazy enough without trying to like still fill in all your orders and get everything wrapped and that kind of shit. It's too much chaos.
All right, good stuff. Look, let's get to the here and the now, and we've got a portal report that we're going to record today too. But biggest news for the football program of today is they do get a new commitment out of the portal, and it is a tight end, which I don't know if this guy is any good, but it's just good for the soul, I think, for OU fans to hear someone that pretends to be a tight end is now alongside everyone else in the transfer portal commitment list.
Yeah, Carson Kent from Kennessaw State, 6'4", 240 pounds, 18 receptions, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns this last season. And you might look at those stats and say they aren't very good, and they're okay. But Kennessaw State did have one of the worst offenses. I think maybe the worst offense. Yes, worse than Oklahoma's in the country this year. So he was actually somebody that actually did some things for them. But other than that, I don't know much about this guy. I think Oklahoma wants to add maybe one more tight end. So we'll see if there's somebody else that maybe they go after the bowl game here, or if they wait till the spring and maybe someone enters and you go after. But I don't know, Josh, have you been able to dive into this guy at all?
Yeah, I had a chance to watch a little bit of tape, and I will say it's harder when you get to places like, Kennesaw State, things like that, because there's just not as many full game reels. Like, it's not always easy to find. So I kind of went over a few different games that had kind of elongated highlights. So you could watch him on a lot of their offensive sets and the things they're doing. The thing I will say, the guy can block. Like, I'm not saying like he is Brody Eldridge at tight end that you're going to just, kick everybody around. But when you look at where Oklahoma was at the tight end position, and again, we've done the Bauer Sharp thing. So when I look at this kid, I see a guy that understands what he's doing. He plays with pretty good leverage. He's very physical. Like he is a guy that you can have like leading you around the corner, and you can expect him to pick up the linebacker on the play side. Like there's stuff he can do that like he will be where he's supposed to be, and I do think he's a capable blocker. The thing I don't know is there's no tape. Like when you watch Derek Simmons, you can watch him against NC State. There's a reference point that is good enough that you can say, okay, I can take something away from that and what that would mean when he's in Oklahoma's uniform. It's really tough with this kid. They didn't play anybody of a really high caliber. They didn't play some team that was way over their skis. And again, this is Kennesaw State's first year in Division I football, so like I get it. But so it's a little tougher to say like this is what it'll look like when he plays, next year when they're looking at Tennessee or they're playing Ole Miss or Mizzou or whoever it is. That's the part I don't know. I do think he can block. Can he be big enough and strong enough to do it to the level they need him to? That's the part I don't know. But at least you have the starting point of he actually can block.
Future you faces some big expectations. Work out more, go to bed earlier, and most importantly, make smart money decisions. Thankfully, today you has Bank of America. One place with tools and guidance to help balance tasks from budgeting to saving. So you can just be you with big plans. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/futureyou.
Yeah, I mean, when we had Ben Arbuckle in here, he was talking about he's not afraid to go, 12 personnel. You still need more bodies to be able to do that, though. I mean, Devon Mitchell, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest questions, and something we should, we'll probably ask at Media Day is Devon Mitchell going to get any snaps in this game? Because you don't have Bauer Sharp. It doesn't bother his red shirt for him to play in the bowl game.
I almost think he has to.
Yeah, I mean just who else do you play?
By process
Unless
of
you just
elimination.
don't have a tight end that you're going to play.
You're going to have to.
So, I mean, as long as he's capable of, showing up for when the bus took off yesterday, I think he's going to play. But, yeah, I mean, you've still got, I would say, guys, don't you still have to go out there and get at least one more guy in the portal at tight end?
Yeah, so I have the numbers here.
And we don't know what'll happen in the spring with, nobody's left so far, but if things don't go well in the spring, I could see some of the tight ends that are on the roster now just saying, I'm out.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a possibility. OU's trying to get to 85, right? And because next year they still have to be 85 per the SEC. So right now I have them at about 80 scholarship players coming back next year. So that leaves about 5. That's including the transfers that they brought in and guys that have left. So if they're give or take 5 guys, they've gotten 7 scholarship players in the portal so far with Kent committing. So I think they're probably looking at adding maybe 5 more guys. I would think that's a tight end, maybe 1 more wide receiver. I know they want to add a corner, and then I would say 1 D tackle and 1 edge guy. That would put you at 5, somewhere in that range. Maybe you don't get a defensive tackle and you get a linebacker instead, or maybe you don't add another tight end and you get a linebacker instead, because I know there's some linebackers they're interested in too. Maybe that's how it works out. I know also at quarterback, maybe they try to add another scholarship quarterback. So that's kind of where I think the thought process is right now.
We'll get more into some of those numbers and positions and offers and what may come and what may go in the portal report. But, the bowl game coming up, I think it's been secondary and for good reason. I mean, OU is going to be down so many players. I mean, we've talked to, the interviews that we've done, with players, and, there haven't been a lot of them, but it's been really telling just having those guys talk about what it's like to be out there at practice and, how thin they are at some positions. I mean, having, specialists have to play roles of offensive linemen in some of the scout team situations. It's just, what this team is facing going into this game. You just want to come out of this thing without any major injuries, I think is goal number 1. Winning is probably secondary to that, although nobody's going to say, well, there's no chance that we can win this game. OU is as of this morning, they were a 3-point favorite in this thing. I saw. That's hard for me to believe, but Navy is going to be a team. They don't have to worry about opt-outs. They don't have to worry about transfer portal. I guess there has been 1 or 2 guys from the service. I think an Army guy was in the portal or something like that.
Yeah, running back.
But, for the most part, they're intact. They're fired up for this game. This is a Super Bowl type game for them. It's just going to be a very difficult situation. So I guess I'm just trying to prepare people not to have meltdowns if OU doesn't look good or, doesn't win this game, because I don't expect them to at all.
I mean, it's going to be kind of a weird game, because I think that there is going to be very minimal opportunities with the football, especially with the way that Navy plays.
You'll have 8 to 10 possessions in this game.
It could be very, very low possessions, yes. I expect it to be a very quick game to a certain extent, but if you can get a couple stops, it's not like every time that Navy has played a functional football team this year, they've struggled. And I think that Army. Teddy Lehman brought this up as well on the Oklahoma Breakdown right after the bowl announcement or selection was made. you would probably rather play a Armed Service Academy team in a bowl game just for the sheer amount of reps that you get in practice, as opposed to having to turn around and play them during a regular course of a regular season, during just a week-to-week type deal. So you know what you're going to get. You got to be able to stop it, though. And, certainly I think that the way Oklahoma's played from a defensive line position or from a defensive perspective this year, they have been able to stop the run. But, this is a little bit different. You're not going to have Danny, obviously. You're not going to have Billy. It's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of combat this. And, on the flip side of it, I'm kind of interested to see what Michael Hawkins is able to do. I would imagine the ball's going to be in his hands quite a bit, just in terms of not just passing the ball, but running the football.
I'm interested to see, George, if they're going to have Dominic Williams in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
not saying tell us.
I know. I just there's been rumblings about him maybe not playing in the game. There's also been talk of him, maybe deciding to go to the NFL or into the portal. So we'll see. He's been practicing. We spoke to him last week, but I think that at the defensive line, when you play a team like this, I can understand the reason for concern in terms of getting, cut at your legs all the time. So I don't know.
Here's the question. If we don't see him out there, does that necessarily mean he's done at Oklahoma?
I don't know. Again,
I'm just saying, is there a potential from things that you've talked to people about that maybe he doesn't play in this game, but that might be part of.
I think anything's on the table.
Yes.
His agreement to come back for a year and get an NIL.
All I know is this: a few weeks ago, the plan was 100% to come back. I don't know if that's still the plan. I know there's people in his group that definitely want him to come back. I think there's also people in his group that want him to consider all his options. And I think that's kind of what he's doing right now. He told us last week that he was going to make a decision before Christmas. It's the 23rd, so I would assume we're going to know something in the next couple of days on what his future is going to be.
All right, we'll get back to more of that, but want to remind you guys, Schwab Meat, the official champion of the holidays. They've got a great NIL program going on throughout the holidays, and they're known for their NIL partnerships with both OU and OSU players. But Billy Bowman, Jada Coleman, Kobe McKenzie, Kinsey Hansen taking center stage in their latest campaign. Now it's Friendsmas. We've switched to from Friendsgiving, but we're going to tell you all about that after this.
Let's listen in on Friendsgiving dinner. They're playing the Schwab NIL game.
Meat, image, likeness. Kinsey, go.
Billy Bowman, ham. Billy Bo Ham Man.
Kobe McKenzie, turkey. Kobe Turk.
Yeah.
McKenzie.
Jada Coleman, ham. Jada Cole, ham man.
Kinsey Hansen, Turk Inzy Hammondson. Turk Inzy Hammondson. 2 meats.
Turkey Inzy Hammondson, MVP of the meal.
Schwab Meats, turkeys and champions of the holidays.
Now, it's probably too late for you for your Christmas dinner to order and get something shipped to you, but just remember, if you want to get any of the great selections that they have at Schwab Meat and schwabmeat.com, just go online to schwabmeat.com and you can get free shipping on online orders of over $75 with promo code SoonerScoop. That's schwabmeat.com. Go and pick out whatever you want from their website. Just make sure your online order is over $75 and use the code SoonerScoop and you'll get free shipping. And as you're driving around the state from here to Texas or wherever for this holiday season, remember you can get Schwab Meat products at OnQ, 7-Eleven, Love's Travel Stops, and Quick Trip on the roller grills. A lot of people don't realize it, but those are most of the time Schwab dogs and most Oklahoma grocery stores. So appreciate Schwab Meats for sponsoring the Unofficial 40 all throughout the football season, and hope you'll continue to support them both in your grocery store and online at schwabmeat.com. Okay, who's playing receiver in this game?
Deion Burks.
Yeah, all the guys that played at the end of the year. I mean, it will be interesting to see. I know that we haven't really gotten any clarification on Zion Kearney. He was helped off the field. He got hurt on the final play of the LSU game. I think he's been practicing, but I don't know that for a fact. And, as George said, you are getting Deion Burks, so that's a positive. Zion Reagan's obviously, I joke about Major Melson. He might have to be in the mix. Jacob Jordan's obviously going to be in the mix on Friday boarding. So, yeah, it's a bunch of guys that we've seen throughout the year, right?
I think Ivan Carrion was listed as a starter on the
there you go
depth chart.
On the 2 deep, yeah, or just the depth chart. I mean, it is. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, obviously Michael Hawkins, he'll probably run the ball a lot in this game, I would assume. And we were talking earlier about Ben Arbuckle and his thoughts on watching practice. George, I mean, you did the interview. He could not have raved more about Michael Hawkins and what he's seen from him watching him in practices.
Yeah, he loves Michael Hawkins. I think he sees Hawkins as a guy that he can really kind of mold into the type of player that he wants him to be. And you've seen that in Arbuckle's short career. He's taken guys and really turned them into elite quarterbacks statistically. And so I think that he sees Michael as somebody that can really fit in what they're doing. You saw, Washington State ran John Mateer a ton last year. So when you have a running quarterback like Michael Hawkins, it would make sense. And I think Mike still has a lot of really great tools that can really succeed in an offense like this. So makes sense that he really likes him. And it sounds like Arbuckle's been, look, he's not, installing anything. Like you're not going to see them run a totally new offense.
Yeah, I think that's important to say.
But he's definitely working with the quarterbacks. And I think that he's, in fact, going to coach the quarterbacks in the bowl game.
Well, and as he said, you need to go watch the interview with the Family Business.
All two of them.
He's out there at practice he's looking at Joe John Finley's play sheet. He doesn't even understand it all, what he's looking at. So I assume that we'll see a very similar offense to what we saw since Joe John Finley has taken over.
Yeah. I'm not sure a lot of people understand the play sheet from this year. But, it's definitely going to be very similar to what they've been doing all year. I think they're going to run the football a lot, maybe have some easy throws for Michael Hawkins, some zone read stuff, but it's going to be...
Hopefully fewer trick plays.
I think it's going to be the true freshman show with Hawkins and Xavier Robinson. And I do think they'll try and get Deion Burks involved, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they try to limit his snaps just because the last thing you want is a guy going out there and getting hurt, especially who's had some injury issues this year.
I wonder how much we'll see of Gavin Sawchuk in the bowl game.
I don't know. To be honest, I love Gavin. I think he's a great guy, but I think the future is one Xavier Robinson and
I think when
Taylor
the offensive
Tatum.
line gets back to being... And I don't think he got a chance to get a lot of carries when that offensive line started running the ball really well.
I would just rather have Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum get as many reps as possible.
I don't know about Tatum.
Why?
Fumbler.
Yeah, but it's a meaningless game. Just let him go.
Get
well,
all the
if
fumbles out now.
If you're talking about the future and Sawchuk, I'm not giving up on Sawchuk based on what I've seen in Taylor.
I'm not. It's not as much as giving up as I am moving on to someone else. I guess that is giving up. But I would just rather. I just think there's more talent in guys in Robinson and Tatum.
Is there more talent with Tatum than Sawchuk, Josh?
I would think so, guys. And I have to admit, some of that is still. I don't know. Maybe I just want to be right because I got out of high school. I was never a huge Gavin Sawchuk guy. I saw a really good track athlete playing football, and that's what I see. I don't always see a ton of feel.
I think you have to go back to last year and watch his play to really judge because we saw nothing from him.
Oh, this year is a wash.
Yeah.
You can't take too much out of this year. But Kerry, I think it says something when. You look at that Alabama game. You look at some of the games where Oklahoma got that offensive line kind of moving in the right direction, and Sawchuk got touches, but he didn't get many.
Yeah,
I think it tells you where their head is.
Well, also it tells you that Xavier Robinson was great. I mean,
yeah.
And
I mean, he's number one to me. I mean, there's no questioning that. I'm riding or dying with him above everybody else right now.
Well, what's Javonte Barnes' health status going into the game?
Well, he's not. He wasn't on the depth chart.
Okay, I didn't look at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have no idea. There's not. You couldn't pay me to look at the depth chart for the bowl game.
I kind of agree. I glanced at it,
and I will say, from everything that I've heard, it certainly seems like the Sawchucks, both Gabe and Gavin, are planning to be back in Norman. In fact, I think they've been looking at buying houses in the Norman area.
And I can tell you that the plan going into the portal is not really looking at running backs.
Yeah, there has
So
been.
I think that they anticipate keeping pretty much everybody in that room.
Maybe outside of a Sam Franklin.
Yeah, Sam Franklin's the only one.
Right.
But
when we're putting together that 85 scholarship roster, we're kind of moving forward in mind that he's not going to be a part of the program.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud. Help! Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Right.
And down the stretch, I thought he was fairly useful. Like, I thought he had moments where you're like, okay. Like, I didn't think he was a superstar, but a guy you could throw to out of the backfield, they could do some different stuff with. I got to where I kind of liked Sam Franklin. I wonder how much of that is gauged by expectation. Like, I didn't expect a lot, and so he didn't have to do a lot to live up to
He
it.
really only got playing time because they couldn't trust Taylor Tatum anymore because of the fumble.
Yeah, for sure. In a strange, like kind of real sick way, I am kind of interested to see what Heath Ozida and Logan Howland can do against a Navy defensive line that, if you just watch the Army-Navy game,
very active.
That was a very, very good Army offensive line. They won the Joe Moore Award, and they ate them up. That was Bryson Daly could not do anything against Navy. So I guess if you really want to take a glass half full perspective and going into the game, we'll see how far has Ozida and Howland come along over the last month and a half, because I do think at the end of the season they were playing pretty good football at the end.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of Navy because they beat the shit out of Army, but they also lost to Tulane 35-0.
Sure.
So it's like,
well, every time that they've played a functional, decent football team this year, Navy's kind of gotten it handed to them outside of the Army game.
And the Army-Navy game is one of those games.
The rivalry and all that kind of stuff goes into it. It doesn't matter. You can kind of truly throw the record books out in that type of game. What were you saying, Josh?
Well, guys, and so much of it is just, and it's not that I'm going to say anything people don't know here, but I was doing the math. Navy's defensive line averages across the front three about 275.
Yeah, you should be able to develop some movement.
If OU can't move those guys around, that's a problem. Like that's again. Because they do that odd front, they're going to throw a lot of stuff at you, and they're going to come at you from weird angles. Like there's going to be some TFLs. Like that's going to happen too. But Oklahoma should be able to consistently run the ball, especially when you have that threat of Michael Hawkins with the RPO stuff that they can do. Like there should be some success. On the flip side, Navy's offensive line averages about 285. So you talk about whether it's Dominic Williams or whoever it is out there, Oklahoma's defensive front, after what they've been through this year going through SEC play, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get chopped and everything, but they should be just eating up blockers. Like the linebackers you would think should find room to run to the football.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be 330 and being on a battleship.
It wouldn't be comfortable. I could probably tell you that.
Fit through those doors, or I might not even be able to fit my fat ass through those doors. I don't know what what do they call those types of doors? I don't even know. Anyway, yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting because, as you mentioned, a lot of games being played by their defensive line, and if you don't have lane discipline against Michael Hawkins, he could have a really big day in this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what Oklahoma can do, and particularly some of these young guys, whether it be on the offensive side that are getting all the opportunities, or even somebody like and we talked to him before they broke for Christmas break or whatever you want to call it here now. I guess they're down in Fort Worth as we're taping this, but it will be interesting to see the Samuel Masigas of the world. Lewis Carter, how does he fit into this defense? I feel like we've been talking about them for quite a while now, but their time has really definitely kind of come, and especially with some of these guys that have opted out. Even somebody like a Kip Lewis, it'll be fun to see him just kind of running all over the field. I would imagine these linebackers, that the numbers that they could put up. I know that the last time that OU played a service academy, what was it? Kenneth Murray had the 26.5 tackle or 27 tackles, whatever it was. that was it was fun to watch, I guess.
The Google machine has told me that if it's horizontal, it's a hatch. It's a door that's horizontal, it's a hatch. If it's vertical, it's just a door. And then the watertight doors with the spinning handles, they're just doors, but they call those spinning handles dogs.
Thank you.
That's your not
Thank you for your service, Gary.
not an old OU football player trivia question of the day or answer of the day. By the way, I want to remind you guys, the Game Time app out there, they've been with us all season. Hopefully you guys have downloaded the app at gametime.co. But just, look, you can pick any game on the app, browse through seats on Game Time picks, and you got the super deals and all of that stuff. But you can also turn on what I like to turn on, which is the all-in pricing, so you know what the fees are going to be, because everybody has fees. And you want to know what you're going to pay and how much those fees are going to be tagged in. The all-in pricing is my favorite feature of the Game Time app. The seat views, you get those panoramic views to show you where your seat is in whatever arena or stadium that you're in, so you can see, are you blocked by anything? Can you see the whole field from where I'm sitting, the whole court? But also, lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price. But all you have to do is go to the Game Time app, create an account, use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, just create an account, redeem code ON3 for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, and terms do apply. Okay, moving on. Josh, we've talked about all the portal stuff so much, and our week has been, last week was so just overwhelmed by it. When you look at the portal and the players who have come in, when you compare that to the recruiting class coming in, is there anyone where you're just like, okay, he definitely has a pathway to win a lot of playing time as a freshman? Versus, okay, maybe they've gotten enough guys to the spot that he's going to be put on the back burner maybe a little bit.
Well, I mean, when you talk about playing time, I think the two you've got to look at are the two wide receivers, Emmanuel Choice and Elijah Thomas. Big-time talents. We know Oklahoma had to fight, especially for Emmanuel Choice down the stretch, and I think Elijah Thomas has been a guy that he was a focus for Oklahoma from early on, and nothing changed as he went out and just had a massive senior year. I think was Gatorade Player of the Year. I believe Max Prep's Player of the Year. I mean, he won all the Player of the Year in state. And to me, with Elijah, it's just about how quickly can he pick up that gap. Playing at the small school level that he did out in eastern Oklahoma, he hasn't seen anything like what he's going to see his first day of practice at Oklahoma. It's going to be a jump. And so I'm very interested to see how that goes. As far as a guy that maybe you're like, okay, maybe things slow down a little bit, I guess you would have to probably say the tackles with the additions of Derek Simmons and Luke Backlinko. What does that mean as far as what OU's plans are for Ryan Foje and Michael Fasusi? Is it
how accelerated
they're going to have to?
Mean?
Again, Oklahoma wants to get those guys on the field. They absolutely do. I don't want people to misunderstand this. I just think maybe that's an insurance policy of, okay, if these guys show up and it's not quite, they're not quite where we need them to be, we can buy them a little time, let them play some mop-up duty, let them kind of get their feet wet, rather than, okay, week two, we've had an injury and we got to throw these guys into the fire and just whatever happens. And I think the thought with that is probably trying to avoid a Logan Howland at Ole Miss situation. Just not where you've got a talented guy. And I think one of the things that gets overlooked in that is maybe the most impressive thing Logan Howland did this year was bouncing back from that and coming back and playing good football. Because a lot of guys would have been in the tank after that fourth quarter against Princely Man Mullane. So I think that may be maybe that was a learning curve. Maybe they said, okay, we can't just throw Michael and Ryan out there. We're going to have something where, okay, we've got some time and we can make the choice rather than being forced to do something.
What about Josh? What about the secondary? There's not a ton of guys in the recruiting class there, but like a Cortland Guillory, a Malik Hawkins. I mean, we've seen guys go out. We haven't seen guys come in. They need depth there, and we'll see what happens with Gentry Williams. But I got to think everyone that's coming in as a freshman has a legit shot of seeing almost big playing time next year.
I would say at corner it is Cortland. Like, that's the guy I would watch just because he's played at a high level. He's really big. He's really long. Like, he fits what OU wants at corner a lot. I love Tristan Haynes. I just think Tristan is still very raw. Like, when you saw him work this summer with Jay Valai, there was a lot they were still working on just technically. Like, and again, I still think Tristan's upside may be as good or better than Cortland's. I just think he's got a little farther to go to get there. At safety, guys, the one that I would watch is Amarian Robinson. We didn't talk about this a lot. Amarian got hurt like the week before the end of their season, and I believe broke a bone in his foot, if I'm not mistaken. That dude came back and played in the state championship game for them and had a pick 6. Like, he's just really, really good, and he's kind of one of those guys where I just wonder if I'm like, he's too good to keep off the field. Like, they're going to find a way to play him and make use of him.
By the way, I believe I had heard that Michael Fasusi, Marcus Wimberly, Malik Hawkins, and Trent Wilson will all be partaking, maybe some in the bowl practices.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I know that.
I don't know if that's confirmed, but that is.
I know Mike Hawkins said that Malik was going to be here because he talked about like going after him during practice and stuff, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And here's the other question about the recruiting class, Josh, is maybe the reason they don't seem to be going after running backs is maybe they believe Torrey Blaylock can be a guy that could play next year?
Guys, he really complements them well. Like, with what they've got, when you've got a guy like Xavier Robinson, who I think we all agree showed more speed this year than maybe we've given him credit for. But Torrey is a home run guy. Like, this is a guy that you get him on the corner, it's over. I don't care who is playing corner. Torrey can run past them. So I think he brings something unique to it. I wonder a little bit. Like I said, I think there's some nuance in his game that's not where it needs to be yet. But it's not like he can't get there. Like, I think it's just him taking more reps, playing more ball. Because, even as recently as his junior year, he split a lot of carries at Atascocita. So, but I will say I do think he played in the best probably district, maybe outside of Southern California, in the entire country. Their top 4 schools all made regional finals this year, like in their district. So the 4th place team in their district got to the final 8 in Texas. Like, that tells you how insane that district was, with North Shore and Atascocita and Dickinson, not Dickinson. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But it was, again, really good district, and I like what they said. Guys, I did want to talk about a guy that I don't think we brought up last week. Is OU getting its first 2026 commitment in a while, and the first commitment since I guess with the exception of Jet New, I believe since Michael Fasusi. Like, that's how long it had been since OU had a commitment, with the decision of Will Conroy, a big-time guy, big-time interior offensive lineman from Ohio, picking Oklahoma, a week ago today, actually.
Josh, what do you make of not just that commitment with Will Conroy, but it was a pretty good here last month, I guess, for Bill Beatenbow to continue to get guys in, and obviously with what he's done in the portal, seems like that's been a positive. But with Will Conroy particularly, or I guess specifically, what does he bring? More interior than anything?
Absolutely. I mean, he is a guy, and I've talked to Will. I will let's make that a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day story for everybody to read. He and I had a pretty long talk, and just need to kind of finish that story, honestly. But with Will, the thing that he talked a lot about was obviously just the track record. Like every offensive lineman we talked to, like the NFL production, and the guy that, not surprisingly, as he is seen as a center for Bill Beatenbow, who he looks at, he's like Creed Humphrey. Like, I love the idea of Creed Humphrey, and I know that was a guy that Oklahoma developed. And again, guys, this is a guy that really probably picked Oklahoma over Michigan. And we think about how Michigan recruits in the state of Ohio. We think about all the success Michigan has had producing offensive linemen under Sharon Moore. Like, that's a really nice win. And he had a bunch of big-time offers, could have gone to a lot of different places. So for Oklahoma to get him coming off a 6-6 season with all the questions that are out there, and I asked him about that point blank. It'll be in the story, but he did. He discussed, just kind of he mentioned, he said, it did have a role for me, but I just believe in what they're doing. I believe in Bill Bedenbaugh. I think everything is going to turn out in the right direction. Like, it sounded like a guy that we've talked about, that really everything Oklahoma was giving to him, kind of putting in front of him, I think he believed and kind of embraced.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you took out of all the stuff that went down with the high school recruiting is that Michael Fasusi was sold on a lot of things besides just money with Oklahoma, and I think we've all heard from pretty good sources that he could have got a lot more by going to Texas, that they threw a big bag at him trying to get him to switch there at the end. But it just seems like through all this stuff, that's still a part. I think like with John Mateer, I think he probably could have got more money from North Carolina, it sounds like. I didn't hear that myself, but I've heard people say that. Like, relationships do still matter, to some degree. And I think, when you have your offensive coordinator here for Mateer, obviously that's worth something. But it is kind of interesting for me, at least, to know that it isn't just about, everything's not about the highest bidder.
And that's important for people to hear, guys, because, and it's true. Like, I think, and we've talked about this, I think, before, that I do think there is something to be said for if you can get in the ballpark of some of these programs that we know are splashing around just huge numbers. If you've got a coach that player really likes, or if you've got a system or whatever it is, whatever it attracts that player, you can still win. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, if you're getting doubled up, it's pretty tough. But now, one of the guys you just mentioned, I think, was pretty close to that reality, and he chose Oklahoma anyway. So, I with the numbers we've heard on Fasusi were just insane. Just absolutely crazy. So, I do, and I think that says a lot for Oklahoma. Because guys, that's one of those things. Like, I'd never begrudge the fans. Like, on social media or whatever, you get to have your opinion, man. And I may tell you at the time you're crazy, but that's okay. You get to say what you want to say. But those players can all see that stuff too. They can read the fans like, oh, this guy's got to go or that guy's got to go. They read that and they still are like, but we still believe. Like, we're still in on this. So as much as I've been tough on, some of the commitment policy and some of that stuff, it showed some validity this year. It really did. I have to acknowledge that. I'd be crazy not to.
I think, just overall, now that we've been through another I don't know what season, if you want to call it a portal season or whatever. I don't know, guys. It's kind of, to me, like the College Football Playoff Committee. You can argue about how OU is doing NIL or how much money they have available or what they're willing to pay, or that they'll stick to their guns for roster valuations and let guys like Brennan Thompson walk or let guys like Jalil Farouk walk. But to me, I don't know. I guess I'm just wanting your thoughts. Like, how do you guys feel about OU and their NIL? George, we can start with you. Just about the funding of it, the execution of it. Is it where it needs to be? Because obviously you're going to have the outliers. Like, you have Nebraska now that just seems to be out of control. They're getting everybody. Texas Tech is doing whatever they want. But most people, and I don't know what North Carolina is going to do with Belichick, but it just seems like most people are in a similar situation to OU, and the Nebraskas and the Techs are the outliers. And we'll see what happens with the way things change and revenue sharing and all that. I don't think it's going to stop Texas Tech or Nebraska from going out there and putting big numbers in front of people, or A&M or Texas, or Missouri might be scaling back a little bit, not Oregon. Alabama is certainly in a very similar situation, it would seem, as Oklahoma as well.
Yeah, look, it's you asked, is it enough? It's never enough, I would say that, because OU is not going to be like those schools when it comes to that. I think OU's approach to the portal is an interesting one. I think that we're going to see if it works out for them. They've certainly gone into it saying, let's see if we can get some bargains. Let's see if we can find some hidden gems. Let's see if a Giovanni Gibson can, be an elite player who I think has a high ceiling, but maybe ends up being a bust, right?
Sure.
This kid from Kennessaw State, nice player. Is he going to be an All-American? Probably not. So I don't know if it's going to work. I think the way that they've approached it this year is a little bit different maybe than years past, in which they are totally valuing their current roster. They love their young players. They're investing in them. They love some of their older guys that they definitely want to have back. I feel like I've been saying this for weeks now, but it's evident in the amount of money that they're going to be paying R. Mason Thomas and Deion Burks, that they said, okay, we're going to try and keep the guys that we think are really, really good, are going to help us next year, and then let's go out and see if we can't find some, hidden gems. Is that going to work? I have no idea. Part of me, I buy into it every once in a while, and then part of me is like, why aren't they going after some of these elite players? But part of the problem is those schools that you mentioned, they're running up the price tag on guys that aren't worth the amount of money that they're getting. And so it's like when you have a school like Oklahoma that they could go out and pay somebody, like an Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech who ended up at Auburn. Oh, you could have gotten that mix and said, hey, we'll pay you $1 million, but they probably wouldn't have been able to get both Giovanni Gibson and Keontez Lewis and Isaiah Satania. They probably wouldn't have been able to get all three of those guys, right? So it's like, do you want three guys or do you want one guy? And that's, I think, that OU is trying to balance. And I think it's also that, again, they feel like on their roster currently, especially at places like the offensive line, defensive tackle, linebacker, they think that they have a lot of really, really good talent running back that they want to hold on to.
And, Josh, I think that goes to show you, like, recruiting classes. How many times have we gone through and said, oh, well, look how many people are left in the class of 2014. Like, that class got decimated. Like, even when you get to go out and pick your players and recruit them, you're going to have busts. So when you're getting these guys, there's no – if a guy wasn't a potential bust in the portal, he wouldn't be in the portal, most likely. Unless it's going to happen. You're going to see – Zachariah Branch, he's obviously not a bust. He just knows he's going to get a shit ton of money.
Well, and that's the thing. And Kerry, what's interesting to me is people will come at me and be like, well, Josh, how could you say they shouldn't be targeting this guy or that guy? He was a 5-star recruit and you believe in stars matter. I do. But guys, once we've got 2 or 3 years of tape and we have new information. I don't have to live off what they were in high school. I can look at what they are now. Like Zach Branch, and again, perfect world, OU has all the money in the world to spend. You go get Zach Branch. Like, I get it 100%. That dude is an electrifying player that can make plays most guys can't. But if you look at his overall production and numbers, it's nothing special. And doing it in the Lincoln Riley offense, he's had good quarterbacks to work with. Miller Moss, as much as people will try to bag on him, I thought Miller Moss was a perfectly fine quarterback this year for USC. So I think people have to understand, like, yeah, that's great. You could go get Micah Hudson from Texas Tech. Micah Hudson didn't play a snap of meaningful football for Texas Tech this year. Like, that should tell you something. And like we were just talking about, did he leave Texas Tech because they couldn't pay him? I don't believe that. Like, I don't think that's what the problem was. So I think that's the thing that people have to understand. Like look, another great example. Look at Indiana. Did Indiana do what they did by going and getting a whole bunch of high-profile former recruits? No. They went and got a bunch of really friggin' productive, FCS, group of 5, those kind of players, and they went and had a really great year. Now, I'm not saying Oklahoma's schedule next year looks like Indiana's this year. I'm just saying there is something to be said for these guys have produced at the collegiate level. And, in the case of like Keontez Lewis, has done it in the Big Ten. I mean, he's done it against real competition. So I think people that are like, well, they should just be getting guys, from the SEC. Who are the guys from the SEC that have been truly productive that OU could go get? Like, which guys are those? Like, there's not many in the portal because these other SEC schools have a ton of money and they're paying too.
It's a great example, Josh, because you mentioned Micah Hudson, for example, and everybody sees the star and the rating and the potential, right? Maybe he turns out to be a great player. But OU saying, hey, that guy's going to garner probably $1 million in the portal, right, for a guy that didn't do shit this last year, versus do you take a guy like Giovanni Gibson, who was super productive but at a lower level, obviously not great competition, and is probably a little bit more of a risky. I would say they're both equal risks in terms of, you have one guy who is super productive at a very low level.
But one guy that lets you get 2 more guys.
Right, and that's what it goes. Giovanni Gibson's market is less than half of whatever Micah Hudson's market is. So I understand the frustration of saying, man, you just got a guy from, I saw somebody tweet out that like OU's only added, I think, 1 or 2 power 4, quote unquote, power 4 players. And I understand that. And maybe they should have gone after some more guys that have played at this higher level. But I think Oklahoma looks at it as, hey, if this guy hits though, we're only paying this amount of money. Like, we're not having to pay a ton of money. And they've instead invested that money elsewhere on their roster. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way that I think OU's viewing it.
And it does, George, and especially when you consider, like when you're talking about them being of equal risk. Okay, so let's say the coin turns up tails on Giovanni Gibson. He doesn't do anything. Well, maybe because of the money you saved, Isaiah Satania does. Like he hits. Okay, you got a player there. Or Keontez Lewis hits. Okay, great. You wouldn't have had that opportunity if you take Micah Hudson, who could still end up being a total bust. So then you've got nothing to show for that money instead of 2 good players, but maybe you missed on the guy that, was your initial focus.
I think it's pretty clear. There's 3 positions you absolutely have to spend money on. Quarterback, left tackle, and edge rusher. And maybe, defensive tackle. 2, let's say 4 then.
Offensive line, defensive line, quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everywhere else, I think you can go
get
there.
You can work everything else.
Yes, I agree.
There's not one.
Look at Georgia. Who does Georgia have at wide receiver? If Carson Beck's healthy, they're probably the favorite in the playoff.
Yeah, and they don't have. Nobody's trying to steal any of their receivers.
No.
Right. I'd take Lad McConkey.
I'd love a Lad McConkey. He's a great player. But this year, Dom Lovett's probably their best receiver, and he's okay.
And that's not to say
he's not a guy
that
OU fans would remember.
Now, that's not to say, like, I don't want to discredit, though, these schools that are going out and spinning it.
Sure.
Like Texas Tech, Oregon, Texas, like these schools that do have the money, absolutely. And I think if Oklahoma had the money that those schools had, you would see them going after, some of these higher profile guys because they had the money to get them. But I think that OU's, and I don't also want to sound like OU's poor. OU's not poor, but they're in the same position as 95% of the other schools are.
But I also think that, we are talking about OU operating with budgetary restrictions.
Correct.
And I do think that there has to be a better job of going out and finding those, they don't have to be billionaires, but guys that have some money that might be willing to kick in $100,000.
100%.
That might be willing to kick in $250 if it comes down to it to get an offensive tackle that, they've already got him at $1 million. And because I think that's what OU's finding out is when they go after these big guys, and this is, we've all heard these stories. I think like John Mateer, I think he had a number they agreed upon before he came to campus with his agent. After he'd entered the portal legally, no tampering, not alluding to that. But then Miami came, North Carolina came, and that price went up a little bit. And OU needed to put together a little bit more money. And so that's where you get into this thing where if you have these extra guys and you have an extra donor base that you're hitting on, trying to get that money, and it may be $500,000 here or there. But in order to secure some of these guys, you're going to have a little bit more donor base than what you've got right now.
Yeah, OU needs to do a better job of identifying those people. That's what I think. That's where it's not how OU's attacking the portal or their approach or any of that. It's more so they need to identify who those people, because we know there are people out there that want to help,
right?
And it's not just the crowdsourcing of One Oklahoma. Like, it's going and finding those major donors that want to contribute and making sure that they know where their money's going, right? Like if they, I think there'd be more people, and I'm just spitballing here, but there would be more of these big money donors that love OU that would contribute if they knew that their money that they just donated is directly going to X player.
I'm telling you, I mean,
position.
people pull out calculators and they're like, well, if OU just got 50,000 people to give $10, then they'd have, what would that be, $500,000? That's not going to happen. What's more likely to happen is 5,000 people are going to give $1,000, or 500 people are going to give $10,000. I mean, that's what's more likely to happen. Not the big. The crowdfunding has its place, but it only gets you so far. Like, Nebraska is not doing all of these guys with crowdfunding. They've got money people that are dedicated, that are motivated to win in the NIL space, and they're doing it.
I think the one thing that we have found out here over the last couple of weeks is the good news is there's people out there that want to help, and there's people out there with money that want to help Oklahoma,
and they want to win.
Yeah,
and they're willing to do whatever
it's like
takes.
There's so many people, and not saying that there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't think that that's the case. It's just getting a plan and executing that plan, and I think there are people behind the scenes that truly want to see this come together and see the NIL efforts get better. And, for the most part, I think that you could say that it's still a positive, but like everything, and like you said right at the beginning of this segment, George, it can get better. And there's certainly a passion that we don't have to, put out there. It's there. Everybody knows it's there.
Are you ready for my old guy reference on the pod today? Does the Touchdown Club still exist?
I truly don't know. I think that, and I think the people upstairs would be able to tell us better, but I think the Touchdown Club was kind of taken in by the Sooner Club. But I don't know that for a fact. That's just my impression.
I don't know if they took it over or if it just became like
Now, I do know that my parents traveled to the Ole Miss game with the Touchdown Club.
Oh, really?
I want to say that's who they were with.
Maybe Scooter Proctor's involved in that now or something. I don't know. But what I was thinking, how cool would it be to get this underground, fun together and just rename it the Touchdown Club?
I like the old school, the vibe of a Touchdown Club. It just has a good connotation.
That would be pretty cool. So yeah, if you want to restart the Touchdown Club, just email Eddie Radosevich.
I won't answer, but maybe we can get this thing moving.
We can point them in the right direction.
I do think that there is a Touchdown Club. I would have to ask my dad, but he would know.
There actually is a website, outdclub.com.
Is there? And I know that they're trying to put together a group for the
it says
one of the
donor
games
points for priority football
year.
Seating. Yeah,
I want to say South Carolina, but I'm not positive on that. I think that was kind of the discussion exiting Oxford, was they wanted to do it again because they had a great time.
Yearly dues $275.
There you go. Let's bump that up and get a.
They do have annual OU Texas buses in Dallas.
Boom.
So there you go. Still exists. All right. Anything else you guys want to hit on with OU before we kind of talk about what we saw in the playoffs first round?
I don't think so. It's kind of that weird time of the year where everybody's, I think for the most part, starting to look towards the spring and guys coming in. And, John Mateer did tell us this morning that he will be in Norman officially on the 9th or the 10th, I believe, to, I guess, get his life going here in Norman. So I have that to look forward to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I know that portal things will be a little slow this week just because the team and the staff are down in Fort Worth.
Right.
But they're still going to be busy once they get back. I think that there's several guys that they're going to be looking at. I know the kicker from Western Kentucky that we all really like ended up going to Ole Miss, so I think they'll be looking there. as well as I still think defensive tackle, edge, tight end, receiver are all positions that I would keep an eye on. Corner as well.
Yeah, you'd like to see another corner or two.
They definitely want to add a corner. And I think they're still in the mix for the Ethan O'Connor kid from Washington State. I don't know when he's supposed to announce. Hopefully soon.
Is he, as far as you know, is he done with visits?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's between OU, Miami, and Georgia.
Okay. All right. College football playoff, first weekend, everybody very excited. And then from the beginning on Friday night through the end of Tennessee, Ohio State, it was just not good. Not fun.
No, all 4 games were terrible.
I mean, you had a moment there where Notre Dame kind of fell asleep Friday night, let Indiana back in it. Texas fell asleep a little bit, let Clemson back in it. But essentially, you had 4 wire-to-wire just
ass whoopings,
beat downs.
Yeah, and the one in Columbus was of epic proportion. If that's the Ohio State that we're going to get in the playoffs, they're going to win the national championship, which would be unbelievable considering we're talking about Ryan Day getting fired if they don't win. Like the opposite side of that. I thought that Texas was pretty impressive, though. They took the foot off the gas, I think, for like 5 minutes there in the fourth quarter, and you thought, oh my God, are they going to really blow this? It'd be the most Texas thing possible, and then they broke off the 75-yard run.
They did come out of that a little banged up, though, which is probably concerning.
Yeah, the
running back and their center.
The 2 offensive linemen, I know that, was it Majors? Did he come back in? It was one of them, him or Cam Williams.
It was
and then
Majors.
Obviously Quintravion Wisner. Yeah, I think he's fine.
Is Texas now the favorite to win?
They are in Vegas. They become the Vegas favorite to win.
14-point favorite in Tempe? Or, I mean, excuse me, I guess against Arizona State. They're not going to Arizona State.
Yeah, I don't know how Oregon isn't your favorite. Like, I get that they've got to go through Ohio State, and that's tough. But, like, what to me, guys, I heard somebody else ask this. So I'll be honest, I'm stealing a little bit. Does Oregon, Ohio State, or the field? Like, who would you feel stronger about in that case? Like, I kind of think whoever comes out of Oregon, Ohio State game, it should be a considerable favorite.
I would agree. I think Ohio State's going to win the game.
Yeah, Oregon, they have that, kind of disrespect card, but a lot of it is just because Oregon plays a lot of close football games. No matter who they play, I mean, early in the season, they barely beat Boise State.
I don't know what I'm really interested to see, like, the teams coming off the bye too, how that affects them, because so often here in like Major League Baseball, for instance, and I know it's a little bit different because you're playing every day, but a lot of those teams in the wild card all of a sudden have found a lot of success here recently, and I don't know if that's because they're playing the week before and then they're catching a team that had to, basically spend the week off. I do think that, like, in baseball, it helps when you're a wild card team and you're playing like quote unquote playoff baseball for the last month of the season. It will be interesting though.
And we've never seen a team come off like a break like this first round. Like the teams that played in the first round, they had 10 days. Like, do they have time to get rusty again? Is it like, where does that leave them? I think that's another really interesting question within that, Eddie, is like, do they have an advantage? Or are they still a little beat up? Like, how does that play?
Who's the dark horse? Is there a team that you're like, that would be? No,
I mean, I think that team would be Arizona State, right?
Yeah.
I don't think
That's the
anybody
only one that
expects
comes to
them.
mind. I mean,
no, I don't think any other one would be a surprise.
I don't think
other Boise State.
I don't think Boise State's going to beat them. But then again, am I really going to just bank on this idea that Penn State and James Franklin aren't going to go out to Boise and just throw up all over themselves? I keep thinking these are home games. I don't know why I do that. Do I think that Penn State's just going to go throw up on themselves in the Fiesta Bowl? I don't know. I don't know why.
Can you guys get there on Notre Dame's going to beat Georgia? I can't make my brain do it.
I can. Yeah. I think Notre Dame has quietly been one of the better. Like, if they hadn't lost to Northern Illinois, it was awful.
People would look at them
Everybody
as a
would
juggernaut.
right now. Yeah, absolutely. Just if you want to just watch one video that will change your mind on Notre Dame, just watch the offensive lineman giving the pregame speech before they ran out onto the field on Friday night. And it's like, okay, I maybe they are going to win the national championship. That was awesome.
I think the thing that's scary about watching the playoffs is you do realize that the SEC was just okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and Oklahoma went 6-6.
It was really rough watching Indiana and SMU play football this weekend. They were embarrassing.
I would push back on the SEC was just okay. I think Tennessee was just okay. I think that
I will say their schedule put them in that position. I'm screaming through from the rooftops that I think Ole Miss was the next best representative from the SEC to play in this besides Texas.
What about South
and Georgia.
Carolina?
Here's what I would say.
I think Jackson Dart gives Ole Miss the knee up from South Carolina.
Here's my pushback, Kerry, is I think the SEC was very, very good this year. I don't know if they're great. I don't know if they have a great team. Now, I think Texas or Georgia still could win the national title.
Sure, yeah.
But I think Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina are all better teams than Indiana, SMU, and maybe even Tennessee. I don't
know if I could include Alabama in that.
I think Alabama is. I think Alabama just totally shit their pants in Norman. That was an out-of-body experience.
They lost to Vanderbilt too, though.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's not bad. I mean, but my point is that I don't think the SEC was just okay. I think that they were a very, very deep conference this year with maybe just not a great team.
I think they're six teams deep.
The number 10 team in the SEC played Tulane and beat the living shit out of them in a bowl game. I mean, Florida just.
But that was
Tulane
without
around.
Mensa too.
Sure, I mean, and that's you're not wrong.
Thompson
I know the running back was a little beat up too. I get it. But that to me, I think George hit it on the head. I don't think the SEC was great at the top. But you go 1 to 10 with any other conference in college football, and it's not close. There's no chance in hell the number 10 team in the Big Ten is standing up toe-to-toe with Florida. There's no way.
Well, let me rephrase my argument. I think there are 6 teams in the SEC that, well, Tennessee's not one of them. 5, maybe 4. I'm going to take Alabama out too. I think there are 4 teams in the SEC that are capable of winning the entire college football playoff, and you can't say that for any other league.
Correct.
No.
So
I'm not shitting on the SEC. I'm just saying.
Well, you said they were okay.
They were okay.
I think they're way above okay. I think the ACC.
I still think it's the best conference in the sport.
I think you could put Ole Miss in that playoff and they could win it all.
Correct.
More so than anyone else that didn't make it. And you can argue about
the way
Alabama
Lenora Sellers was playing. I would have loved to see Lenora Sellers.
Yeah.
In that, in South Bend the other night. I would not have been mad about that.
I would be worried about Sellers making mistakes in a really big game.
Yeah. I mean, it's always possible.
Every quarterback. Again, that's every quarterback in the playoff right now.
Well, sure.
Guys, the thing I keep coming away with, and I think I brought it up a couple times, and the more I watch Tennessee, the more I watch Ole Miss, the more I watch a lot of teams that run that offense, are people starting to figure that out pretty good? It feels like it's, I don't know, it doesn't hit like it used to. I don't care. Nico, all the hype about Nico, and people, I think because Jackson Arnold fell off such a cliff, it kind of got ignored. That Nico didn't have anywhere near the year people thought. There were people talking about him as a Heisman contender in the preseason. And
here's what I think it is.
He
Josh.
looked bad at times.
I think in the SEC, where so much emphasis is put on defensive line and defensive line play, that when you go against that offense with an SEC team, you don't have to commit as many people to the run game, and you can focus more on playing people over the top, so you don't get people running past you. And other conferences just can't do that because they don't have the defensive line quality or depth that people in the SEC have. Now, Ohio State can do it, and they obviously did, but you have to be Ohio State. You have to be Michigan when they're really good. You have to maybe be Oregon State. I don't know if they're up there on the defensive line with an Ole Miss or a South Carolina, but to me, that's what it is.
I think that's fair. Because, again, it feels like everybody one day kind of woke up and were like, wait. Just by giving the quarterback this look pre-snap, we can decide if they're going to run or pass. We have that ability to dictate that term. And then from there, we can do whatever we want to post-snap to combat what they're going to be forced to do because they're playing a numbers game. It just like, I don't know. It feels like people took it down, like kind of tore it down to the studs, and we're like, okay, now we can do this. We can alter this because we know how they're going to respond to what we've done. And so it's just the opposite of what an offense is supposed to do. It's being dictated to rather than doing the dictation. Well, that's weird. I don't like that.
When you put dick in something that many times.
Yeah, there's too much dick in there. That's not good.
Massive pause.
So who do you guys, I mean, is everybody, I mean, we don't know about Carson Beck, like his health. I mean, that's the biggest thing to me, do we?
He's out.
But I mean, he's out for this game, but if they.
He's out for the playoffs.
He's out for the entire playoffs?
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay. So, yeah.
He's out.
No wonder Texas moved up to number 1.
Yeah, I think
Wait, they're doing rankings still?
No. It's like the
Vegas.
odds.
Vegas.
I see what you're saying.
I think it's going to be Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State. Those are the 3 teams, I think.
Yeah, I can't disagree. We actually agreed on something today, George.
Guys,
great.
Can Arizona State keep it close with Texas?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think they can for a half, but I don't think they will.
Yeah. I think we're all prone to just shitting on Texas or not believing in Texas, and they're good. I mean, they're just good.
Well, and look, the 3 teams I just named, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, they have the best players. I mean, they literally have the best players. Georgia's probably in that conversation, but with Beck out, I don't think they are. But those are 3 schools that have the best players in the country.
Pretty simple game.
Yeah, and I think pretty damn good coaches in terms of, especially Dan Lanning, the job he's done. I think Sark is a damn good football coach.
Yeah.
And I know Ryan Day's been shit on and he can't beat Michigan. I still think he's probably a pretty damn good football coach, especially an offensive mind. I think he knows what he's doing.
What's the line on the Penn State game? What is that at?
It was 13 or something. Maybe that was Boise was 13. I think it's 10. Yeah, for Penn State.
The best thing I saw was
I'd be all over Penn State.
Somebody tweeted, if Penn State's winning playoff games, the playoff's too big.
Well, James Franklin has a better winning percentage than Ryan Day in the playoff. That's an amazing thing to think about.
That's the other thing. I don't think, we're going to have to put an asterisk when people start saying so-and-so has won playoff games. This isn't like the Final Four playoff games. I mean, it should be semifinals or finals. I mean,
it'll be like the tournament. Like Indiana, North Carolina, Kentucky, those people don't start keeping count until you're in the Sweet 16. Like that's when it matters. Like they expect you to get there. So for for programs like this, like, cool, you made the playoffs. So did Indiana. Like, I think that's going to be the thing where people are like, okay, win in the quarterfinals at least before I start getting worried about what you've done.
This wasn't the round of 16 if you're comparing it to basketball. This was closer to the round of 64.
Oh, 100%. No, that's what I mean. Like,
no, I know, but that's what was surprising to me. As I thought it was going to be like, anybody can win and, Cinderella and all that. Like, football's just a different sport.
I thought Ohio State and Tennessee could be interesting. That was the one that I was like, okay, this could be really good.
Same.
I just, guys, what Abdul Carter did to Savion Byrd, sorry, Savion, former OU guy, that was criminal. Like, that they never had a prayer. He just destroyed Savion Byrd.
Yeah, I mean, when your quarterback's throwing picks to start, it doesn't help. So,
ooh, yeah. But he didn't get help. That guy, I mean, it wasn't a great throw on the 4th down that they tried to go for it on Penn State's goal, but that's a play that guy's got to make. And they're set up 1st and goal at like the 1.
I do love the games being on campus. I think that's awesome. And I think that's
great.
I think they should do that for the second round too. I think it'd be great.
In a perfect world, they would. But
like, could you imagine?
But they're all in the major bowl games
aren't going to get pushed out.
But I also hate, like, it's like, I don't like that Boise State got a bye, but could you imagine Boise this week? It would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It would have been great.
Well, guys, do you think this, like, to me, this weekend only cemented that they're going to get rid of if you're a playoff or if you're a conference champion, you're an automatic bye thing, or like that stuff that's got to die, because I think you could have had some good games in this round, and now because of this bye, we've got a chance that at least half of the quarterfinals are going to be bullshit games too.
Yep.
Like, because you've got some teams that should have had, like, if Arizona State has to play, you know, I don't know, like SMU, okay, I'm in on that game. I'd love to watch that game. But like, and then, okay, they've earned their way. Now, okay, now you go see them. They got to go to Austin and try to play Texas. Okay, that's a big hill to climb, but fine. But I think when you've done it this way, it's really, you're watering down your product when it could have been a lot better.
I will say this. The best thing about the playoffs to me was College Game Day. McAfee and Saban going after each other. Shane
Gillis
being on.
Alabama Jones.
Him going after Saban. And then Signetti. My God, Signetti. I mean, he's become the most unlikable coach of a Cinderella ever.
He was so likable early in the year, and then he just started saying shit that it's just like, dude, like don't say that. Like, you don't. There was no need.
I loved it. I loved we beat the shit out of him. Like, now I wish he would have backed it up.
That's what I'm saying.
That would have been a lot better. But I love having a guy like that that's not just sterile bullshit all the time.
I will say
I'm out on Signetti now.
I'll take Signetti over Drinkwitz. How about that?
Well, yeah.
He's just a Simpsons character.
Drinkwitz is like the heel that's not important enough to be the heel.
Bob could probably give us exactly what wrestler that would be.
I always forget. Bob in pro wrestling is one of the most strange marriages I can possibly consider. The man loves tennis and pro wrestling. Like, that's just a wild mix.
Bob,
it's questionable.
Most interesting man in the world.
All right, I think that's it. We want to wish, unless you got something, Eddie.
No, good couple wins for OU basketball.
Oh yeah,
since we last talked, the Jeremiah Fears heroics in Charlotte was unbelievable with the 4-point play to win the game, and then obviously they recapped it or got back to it on Sunday with the win over Central Arkansas. Jeremiah Fears was named the SEC Freshman of the Week, and they are now 12-0 as they head into their final non-conference game coming up next Sunday.
Up to 11 in the AP?
Prairie View A&M. It's 11 and 12. I think it's 11 in the AP, 12 in the coaches, or vice versa. So all in all, pretty good. Good win for the women on Sunday as well. They dispatched of Omaha, and they have one more tune-up game in non-conference play before they roll into conference play starting in the beginning of January. It's going to be fun.
All right. Want to wish everybody out there a happy holiday, happy New Year. Enjoy the pod with the kids driving to see Grandma. If that's what you're doing, be careful out there on the roads. And hey, thanks to everybody for listening, being a part of the Unofficial 40 throughout the entire year. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate schwabmeat.com as well. Enjoy Vision for being a big part of the Unofficial 40 throughout the most of the year as well. So that's going to do it for this edition, this holiday edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. We'll be right back next week to wrap up the season, wrap up the bowl game, the Armed Forces Bowl, if you will.
Eskridge Lexus postgame show on Friday after the game.
We'll all be in the same place, so should go smoothly. And, one more Eskridge Lexus podcast to come as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.